It's been 5 years since Medal of Honor Airborne Redux came out, so I figured for the 5th anniversary, I'd take a look back at it and see, what it did right, what it did right wrong, what could have been improved. First thing you'll notice, I'm playing this at 4:3 aspect ratio because I'm actually playing it on the CRT monitor. I never actually tried out any aspect ratio besides 16:9 when I originally made this mod, so I figured I'd try it out. Funny enough, this game's actually got problems with CRTs. By default, it only supports 800 by 600, 1024 by 768, and 1152 by 864. And it's like, I don't know if you know CRTs or not, but even though they're kind of obsolete by 2007, even by that point, they were capable of like all the way up to like 1600 by 1200 and 2048 by 1536. So it's like, I don't know what the fuck was up with that, especially since on the files, they actually had an option for HUD scaling at 1600 by 1200. So I don't know. I guess they figured who the fuck was using CRTs in 2007? It's probably made for the Xbox 360 anyway. You'll also notice actually probably won't notice this. This is another weird combo I tried out. I decided to play with gyro controls through Steam input. I've been messing around with gyro controls lately. If you've been watching the channel, you've probably been seeing all the PS Vita homebrew gyroscope demonstrations. It's because I'm actually working on a video essay on PS Vita games with gyro controls like Uncharted Golden Abyss, Killzone Mercenary, and Gravity Rush. Just very interesting niche subject that not a lot of people know about. I've been messing with the gyro controls. It's very interesting. I'm watching Neryl's old videos on the subject, how passionate he is about defending gyro aim. It's so funny, like console gamers just seem to hate motion controls, even though they are objectively better for aiming in FPS games. If you want to aim with gyro in games, you either got to play on a PC with Steam input, or you got to just get a Nintendo Switch and play Doom Eternal at a glorious 25 FPS at its sub 720 resolutions. For this demonstration, I'm going to go with the sniper rifle to show off something interesting too. The very interesting thing about this game is that regarding the PC port, it actually supports simultaneous mouse and keyboard input with joypads. That's actually not as common as you think. It's pretty cool. You can do cool stuff in Steam input with like that. I have all the buttons mapped to keyboard actions. You actually can rebind them if they're Xbox buttons. But the problem is, like, this game has the PC port has a glitch where even if you rebind the action, it still stays, it still stays like the original action. So you have like two actions on one key, and you can't do anything about it. It's bad programming. Also, there's no vibration, which sucks, because that's like the best reason to use gamepads. I'm going to talk over this cutscene. By the way, this is my third attempt at trying to record this 5th anniversary video. That's why it's coming out so late, and it's really pissing me off. Even with this second attempt, I'm using like this combination headphone headset thing with my Apple dongle and like an extension cable. Even though in my test footage it worked perfectly, for some reason when I actually recorded the 90-minute long fucking raw footage, it actually glitched out and thought both the headphone and the headset were the same audio. So that sucks. Similar thing happened with the first attempt, except it was my commentary, which, at least I care about that. But the problem with the first attempt was it got zoomed in at this odd 1920 by 1440 custom resolution I set to take advantage of that higher resolution bitrate on YouTube. I'm going to load in the level. I'm going to do the tank objective first, because it was, in my first attempt, it was very annoying to do that. I kept dying. Thankfully, in this footage, I do it all in the first time. I'm probably going to end up editing this later anyway, just because I don't want to spend 90 minutes talking. Let's go over my talking points I wrote down. Anyway, so I think I'm going to show this off right about now. This game, I never knew a lot about I never played this on Xbox 360, but this game has very interesting gamepad features. They're very forward-thinking. Do I show this off yet? I think I'm showing off the gyro aim right now and how accurate it is to like movements. God, do I show this off? Oh, I don't. Boy, this commentary is very awkward. I could just cut all this out. So one of the things I never actually knew about this game is that it actually, on gamepads, it actually supports analog leaning. like it's sensitive to the analog, left analog stick, so that's actually pretty cool. I never knew about that. It's more useful than you think it is. You only leaning a certain amount rather than just a fixed amount on PC. I guess that would explain why they did like leaning by default on this game. With mouse and keyboard, of course, it works way better with walking. With Steam Input, I actually have it set up so that a soft trigger pull is the walking and the hard trigger pull is the leaning mechanic. And it actually works pretty well. I'm surprised how well it works. Another cool, I think I'm about to show this off. Another cool thing is that normally in the game, you know, on the PC version, when you press jump, you hold your breath. But funny enough, when you, yeah, it's like this game actually takes advantage of the analog triggers too. You can actually control your breathing that way too, and then it'll fire when you pull the trigger all the way to the full pull. In the game files, it's called True Trigger, and it's honestly pretty cool with the sniper rifle. It's pretty useful, more useful than you think. Another cool thing it has is analog sensitivity for the grenade throws. I know games like Half-Life 2 will have like the regular throw and then the alt fire will be the soft throw. But in this game, with the soft trigger pull, you can actually just throw it softly that way. It's very nice and immersive. I wish more games would do shit like that. It's pretty cool. It has its own unique perks. Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead with my points now. I'm not going to talk for the whole footage of this video. So the thing about this mod is that I spent hundreds of hours working on it, but very little of that was actually spent making Medal of Honor. See, what I mean by that is this mod actually originally started out as a Stalker mod. There's that mod called Stalker Call of Chernobyl, which is like the sandbox mod, and within that mod there was like a weapons pack called STCoP weapons pack. And I thought it was pretty cool. It made it almost like a looter shooter. In one area, you could just kill 10 guys and get like 20 different weapons. It was really cool, really addictive. But the problem with that mod, it had severe balance issues. Like, with certain upgrades, weapons would actually get negative recoil. Like, the recoil would go down when you fire. Very odd. So, yeah, I wanted to make a weapons patch for that. I wanted to do cool stuff like add in lore-friendly loadouts. And I would add in, like, cool secret weapons that were in the vanilla games but were not in Call of Chernobyl, like the Big Ben Desert Eagle variant. Yeah, but most importantly, I want to have very realistic weapon stats, because Stalker is known for its shitty, janky combat, but the funny thing is, with mods, it can have almost, like, simulation-level accuracy, with, like, the bullet drop from the ballistics and stuff. You can actually make the guns very true to real life, and that's what I was doing. What I would do was I would take footage of like real people firing guns, and I would like watch the recoil, and I could do like a before and after image and overlay it in Photoshop, and then I could do it with the third-person chase cam. I could actually get realistic recoil that way, and from there I'd look up like bullet pattern spreads, and I would like change the random horizontal and vertical recoil on the weapons till the point where they would match like from the same distance, because Stalker would have like the viewfinder mode, where it would show you how many meters away you were and stuff. So that was pretty cool. So I was working on this mod. I did like so much on it. I eventually got to a point where I was proud enough with how it was coming out that I could show it off to the public on the internet. And I showed it off on the YouTube channel. I got about 1,000 views. I know that doesn't sound like much, but for me that was amazing. And I decided to like forward it to Hunter Tinsley, the maker of Far Cry 2 Redux on ModDB. And he saw it, he was really impressed. He's like, wow, those are some really impressive features. Maybe you could port them to Stalker Anomaly. And I was like, oh, okay. What's Stalker Anomaly? And it turns out that Stalker Anomaly was actually a mod that did pretty much everything I wanted to do with Stalker. And it came out like a year or two before I started even working on the mod. I was just like living under a rock. Very upset about that, but at first I wanted to like port the weapon stats back to Stalker Anomaly, but the problem was there was like hundreds of guns in that, and there's all sorts of weird obscure ammo types, and it's like it just wouldn't have worked. So I just canned the project, but deep down I just played, you know, Anomaly, and it was good enough on its own, even though it still had like problems with like jackhammer recoil. I always hate that shit in games. Like you think about like Half-Life with the MP5, when he fires the MP5, it just jumps up and down when he fires. I guess it's a little realistic because he's an untried scientist, but whatever. The problem with yeah, it's like no, but what I really wanted was I never felt right that I had all those realistic weapon stats for like AK-47s, M16s, and could never do anything with them. So what happened was I was recording a 3D audio demonstration of this game for the channel because I found out it could work with DSOAL, even though, like, I don't know, it was very janky. It was like virtual surround sound instead of 3D audio with elevation. I was so surprised it worked anyway. But what I was shocked was when I was revisiting the game years after playing it for the first time. I can't believe how badly it held up. Like, all the weapons felt wrong. Your bullets would not go where the iron sights are pointing. Like, the leaning shift mechanic felt like shit. The FOV was shit. The depth of field made you basically blind with the sniper rifle. I don't know. It just nothing felt right in the game. So eventually I found out, like, the INI files, when I was doing the tweaks for FOVs, I found out, like, you could actually go into, like, the weapon files, and you could change almost every aspect about the weapons, from their firing rate to how much damage they did to, like, the view kick when you fire, the recoil. I was so impressed, I thought, what if I could take my old STALKER Call of Chernobyl weapon pack stats for the weapons and port them to this and have, like, realistic feeling weapons. So that's what happened. I started with the STG44, the M1911, and the trench gun, and I would just port over the stats from, like, the AK-47, the M1911, and the pump action shotgun from that mod. And, you know, from there I would look up the stats for the other weapons. I'd try to look up, like, the MP40's, like, firing rate and stuff, and I'd make that more realistic. The spread when you fire from a certain range, I'd try to implement that in, you know, take into consideration, like, the weight of the weapons. Like, the Bryant auto-rack rifle would have less recoil because it was, like, so heavy. Funny enough, I can remember reading about that, looking up, like, gangsters and the Thompson submachine gun. Most gangsters didn't actually use the Tommy gun. They used the Burning auto-rack rifle because it had so much less recoil than the Thompson, especially the early versions with, like, the 1,200 rounds per minute firing rate. Yeah, it's an interesting piece of history. I knew the Browning automatic rifle in this mod had to have, like, low recoil and shit. Yeah, I was just so shocked by how bad this game played. I wanted to just fix it up. I tweaked it. I also tried to emulate games like Insurgency. I wanted that kind of feeling. I remember mentioning this first video, I originally wanted to have, like, you didn't die in one hit. I wanted you to die in, like, 2 hits, 3 hits, like, maybe 5 hits on the easiest difficulty. And you would have, like, a bleeding mechanic with, like, inverse regenerating health, where it would just count down 1 HP every 5 seconds. But, again, the problem I always had with that was once you reach 0 HP, you turn into, like, a zombie, and then your controls locked up. And, like, there was nothing you could do about it. You had to just quit out of the game or reload a checkpoint. It's very unfortunate because the bleeding mechanic actually did add a nice sense of urgency on Expert, and again it removed, like, the bullshit one-hit deaths. But, you know, what can you do? Yeah, in the end though, I was really proud of how the mod came out originally. The weapons actually had a lot of weight to them, even with the shitty sound effects I never liked and couldn't change. I was really proud. Funny enough though, like, the automatic weapons had, even though they had more recoil in this mod, the single-shot rifles like the Garand and the Kar98K, they actually had way more recoil in the vanilla game, which is very funny to think about. I think I ported my 762 by 54 Dragunov round stats to the rifles. That was about the equivalent to, like, a 30-06, and then I tweaked it from there to make it feel a little more real and stuff. Yeah, it's funny, like, it's the way it worked out like that. The weapon balance also worked out pretty well. I mean, again, I had to remove a lot of the upgrades just because they're so unbalanced, like the Gewehr 43 and stuff, or like the 64-round MP40 upgrade that wasn't even true to the real-life weapon and was not actually used in World War II. Yeah, but, like, aside from that, like, I was surprised that the weapons were balanced. The Kar98K was probably the worst weapon in the game, even with my fixes to, like, give you the first 2 upgrades for free. It's just, like, because the thing is, like, when, like, every weapon can, like, fire and kill in one shot, it's like, why would you want to use a shitty bolt-action rifle without a scope? It just felt so shitty compared to the Garand, the Browning automatic rifle, the Sturmgewehr. It's so funny how it worked out like that. I guess it is kind of realistic, because, like, guns are not balanced in real life. the MP40 is way better than the Thompson, just in real life. It had so much less recoil. It's much more accurate. I had to laugh because there's an old mail call with Ermey, rest in peace, where he does like the MP40 versus the Thompson submachine gun, and it is like the funniest shit ever. Because the whole time you can tell he knows that the MP40 is the better gun. It just beats the Thompson in every way, but he just because he's such a red-blooded American, he just can't admit that the evil Nazi weapon is the superior weapon, and it's so funny. Like, he has to come up with the most bullshit excuses to say the Thompson's better. Even though you watch him fire it, he can't even hit the broadside of a barn, whereas the MP40 hits it every single time. It's so fucking funny. Yeah, like the STG44 44, it outclasses every weapon. It's got like a big magazine, and it's super accurate, and it does rifle damage. Not as much as like the Garand, but enough to just kill most enemies in one hit anyway. It's so funny how it works out like that. I guess that is realistic, because like the STG44 44 was ahead of its time. It was like it was basically the first assault rifle. I always have to laugh when games try to make the Browning automatic rifle like an assault rifle, but it's like, it really isn't. It's not at all the same purpose. It's probably closer to a light machine gun than anything. It's just so damn heavy. It's so funny to me that like, well, actually I think the older Call of Duty games made it like the LMG class, even though it only has like a 20-round magazine. Yeah, but it is funny how like it just like works out like that. The Garand is okay, but like the Garand and the Gewehr 43 are okay, but once you get the Sturmgewehr, they're basically replaced. The Browning automatic rifle is good too, just because it has lower recoil than all those weapons. Although it does make you very slow. It is just how it's balanced like that. Funny enough, I think sometime after I made that mod, I played Call of Duty Roads to Victory, the PSP exclusive Call of Duty game you've probably never played. The Call of Duty game you've never played. And it's funny, in that game, every weapon just kills in 2 hits. The Garand hits in 2 hits. The Thompson kills in 2 hits. The pistols kill in 2 hits. And in that game, the MP40 becomes the best weapon, because it's like when every gun kills in 2 hits, the MP40 has like the highest, not the highest rate of fire, but it has the most controllable with automatic fire. It's got like a 30-round magazine as opposed to like 8 for the Garand. And it's like, it's just better in every way. Like, the game is just poorly balanced in that sense. They try to make it like the bullets disappear after a certain point, but like, because it's the PSP, the arenas are small anyway. It's just funny how it works out like that. It is just funny how like certain balance changes can make weapons better or worse, and sometimes they have unintended consequences like that. The MP40 just becoming the best weapon. Yeah, in this game, like almost every weapon kills in 1 hit. So it's like, why bother with certain weapons when other weapons will just do just as fine? It's not like the gamey thing where like the Sturmgewehr will kill in 3 shots to the chest, but the Kar 98K will kill in 1 hit. Or I guess I think Call of Duty 2 made it kill in 2 hits. But the scope version would kill in 1 hit. You gotta love when the shit happens like that in games. As proud as I was, though, there were some issues. Originally, like, originally I had a lot of criticism of like the weapon FOVs. So what I had to do was I originally talked about this. I had to buy an airsoft MP40 for $20 off Amazon. I could have bought a Thompson, but it was like $15 more, and I wanted to spend as little as possible for this project. I bought the MP40. I scaled the FOV. I think like you could see like part of the buttstock, and it's like that was no bueno. I had to change it to be more realistic, and it came out pretty well. For the pistols, I used an old Cybergun Desert Eagle light gun for the PS1 I bought at a flea market, as well as an NES Zapper, and I would just use those as the reference for what the pistol should look like. It's always funny to me in games, they always had like the pistol like right up to your face, and it's like, if you fired the gun, it would just fly back and like give you a black eye. I never get why they do that like Duke Nukem 3D bullshit thing, even nowadays in 2025. It's so funny to me. It's like when you hold a pistol, it's going to be far from your body. It's just natural to hold it straight like that. It's funny to think about like that. So that was fixed in like basically the only patch this mod got. The recoil was also a bit too high. I was able to fix that, have less randomization on the bullets. And again, I compared like the MP40, it felt very realistic compared to what I saw. The problem I always had with this mod though was making it was very difficult. I had to have one INI file for every resolution and every aspect ratio and every FOV. Well, actually, not every resolution, just every aspect ratio and FOV. But it's like, it made it almost impossible because I would have to just go back through hundreds of files and change them. Eventually, I started using like Notepad++ and then just finding and replace everything from like the beginning of the next weapon to like the stat I would want to change. And that really was like the fastest way to change it, unfortunately. So even if I wanted to make a 1.2, it would have been too difficult just with the amount of shit I'd have to change just to make one change. So I just ended up leaving it at 1.1, even if I knew there was some stuff that would be fixed. One thing I would definitely change in version 1.2 after playing this is I would make casual difficulty normal difficulty, and then just make casual difficulty even easier, like the original game, with like temporary invincibility and 600 HP. So what I found, funny enough, at the time, I never actually play-tested casual difficulty. I just assumed it would be as easy as like the main game's expert difficulty, because the same HP and stuff. But like, you actually do die way faster, just because rifles do double the damage and stuff, and some machine guns, I think, kill you in like 2 less hits, just because they do 64 damage instead of like 40 or 50. So it's funny how that works out like that. It really is more like a normal difficulty. In my first recording attempt, I actually died like 5 times, and even in this footage, I do have a few close calls. Yeah, so I would definitely make casual difficulty easier. One thing I learned from Anomaly that I wish I knew when I made this, when you zoom in your FOV in that game, it only goes up by like a single FOV, as if to simulate you leaning in to like brace the shot. But I gotta say, it feels so much better than how I have it, how it doesn't zoom in at all. It satisfies that itch, you know? It feels right when it just zooms in that little bit. Again, I always hate, like in games, where when you're just firing through the iron sights, and it just like zooms in like double the zoom. I remember a lot of those Unreal Engine 3 games like this and like Legendary and shit were bad. I think even like the first Bioshock was pretty bad about that. I don't know, just like a weird Unreal Engine 3 thing, bad iron sight zoom. And of course, I think the biggest complaint everybody had, the reload times were way too slow. Originally, I think I based the reload times off like Insurgency's MP40 value, and they just balanced everything around that guideline. But I gotta say, it really is just way too fucking slow. I mean, the problem with this game is that it just scales the reload times. It doesn't, like, realistically, when you press the button to release the magazine, it should always just be the same speed, but like, because you have to scale the reload times, it doesn't scale that well. But yeah, it's just way too slow. I actually went back, took my airsoft gun out of storage, and I tried to do reloads as fast as I could with a plastic magazine. What I found the fastest time I could achieve was 3.15 seconds. So, like, yeah, that's way faster than the default time I have in this game, which is like 3.6. So if I ever made 1.6, I would have to reduce the reload times on most of the guns by like 0.5 seconds, more or less. I mean, maybe like the bolt-action rifles would still reload slowly, and like the shotgun would load slowly to balance them out. But yeah, for the most part, I could speed up the reload times quite a bit. One of the biggest problems I had was the pistols, SMGs, and the shotguns were just way too effective at long ranges. They would be able to headshot enemies even from like 100 yards away. And of course, you know, the problem with that is because it was originally a STALKER mod, STALKER had ballistics modeling, so you could have the guns be super accurate, but they would just fall to the ground by 50 meters. So, like, if you wanted to shoot somebody with an MP5 from 50 meters away, you have to aim, like, a good, like, on the computer screen, like, a good, like, 3 inches above their head, and it would maybe drop down and hit them in the stomach. You know, it was very, like, cool like that. But, like, you can't do that in this game. So that just really fucking sucks. I don't know how I'd change it. Another thing STALKER had, which I found out for that mod, you could actually have realistic sway in STALKER, which is very cool. I remember testing it out in that video. What I found out was even if you had 0 recoil and 0 random spread on the guns, because of the ADS spread, your bullets would not be like laser accurate at long range. It would still have natural sway from the dispersion. I guess with the gyro aiming, you would get that too. But again, with the mouse and keyboard, you wouldn't get that randomization. So that is a bit unfortunate. I think the only way you'd be able to simulate that would be to just have like wider random spread on the weapons in this game. And of course, I could always have like damage fall off. The problem with the damage fall off in this game is kind of fucky. Like, even with this footage, I went back, I changed the fall off on the Thompson from 200 to 75, and what I found was, like, when I went up on the roof in the first mission and I tried to headshot the guy on the MG40, it would just not kill him. I'd get 5 headshots in a row, it would not kill him. So it's like, I guess it was just doing 0 damage at that point. I don't exactly know how the damage roll-off works, but I don't know. I would have to find some way to tune it that would do less damage. I mean, again, it feels stupid to be able to get hit in the head and not instantly die, but whatever. Maybe just make the multiplayer in the head better. I don't know. Problem, again, with the shotgun, whatever. One of the big problems I had, even going back to Stalker, was that, like, the recoil on the automatic weapons worked out nicely, but when it came to, like, single-shot weapons like pistols, rifles, and the shotgun, it's like you could just move down the mouse at the same rate the recoil happens, and it would instantly nullify the recoil at all. Now, with Stalker, I originally had, like, an idea. I would make a Lua script that every time you fired the mouse button, it would temporarily lower your mouse sensitivity by 3 times, like a third of the mouse sensitivity for like 1/8 of a second, just to simulate the initial shock of like firing a gun and feeling the recoil against your shoulder. I thought that would be a great idea to like have that haptic feedback whenever you fire a weapon without making it, you know, too intrusive. You'd just be a certain amount of recoil you could never compensate for. But I don't know. I didn't know how to write Lua scripting back then. And there'd be no way to do that at all in this game, unfortunately, because there's no parameter for like weapons having different mouse sensitivities or whatever. One big change I would like to make, but I don't know how I'd go about doing it, is I'd like to make the sniper sway and choking effects more realistic. Honestly, I always felt like the sniper effects were too gentle in this game. I think the mod only made them even slightly more gentle. And it's like, I've actually looked up real point of view footage of like sniper scopes on like YouTube, and you gotta see, it's actually pretty shaky. Like, again, even with the gyro aim and zooming in, it's kind of shaky. And it'd be way more shaky with like a 10-pound rifle than a very lightweight dual sense. So I don't know how, it's because like the problem is, you don't really have to breathe at all to like aim. You'll be able to, aside from like weird janky hitbox problems this game has, you'll still be able to like kill enemies without holding your breath first. And it's like, that's not really realistic. Unfortunately, this game does not support like different stances having different sway. That would be really great. Even Stalker had that. So this game is, the Medal of Honor Airborne is actually worse than like Eurodrank made in a shed. Of course, I think one of the biggest problems this game always had was like the enemy accuracy. It was always just too hard to make the enemies accurate, so I just settled with making them very inaccurate. Now, I did a lot of experimenting with the accuracy system in this game. What I found out how the accuracy in this game works is, by default, they'll have like a spray cone value. Like right now in this mod, I have it set to like 375, which would be 3.75 on random weapon spread multiplied by 100. I think in the vanilla version, it was like between 200 and 300. So I actually did make them quite a bit less accurate by default with the MP40, just so it like wouldn't feel like aimbot bullshit accuracy, which I had a lot of problems with in test runs. Yeah, you could just set it like, what happens is I would set it to like 50, because that's about what I figured out the realistic recoil system with my M340 was. It was about like, it actually did line up with the iron sight. The iron sight, I mean, it actually man, I'm very thirsty. I didn't bring a cup of water with me to record this after like 90 minutes of talking nonstop in the failed recording. I'm sorry. Yeah, like the iron sights, when you fire the recoil and pull it down, it would be the same like what the crosshairs would show for hip fires. So that's pretty cool. But like if I set the enemies to that, it would just make them way too accurate at any range. Because this game's got like, it's like Doom, where the enemies will always perfectly track you no matter where you are, as long as you're within their line of sight. It's not like Quake 2, where if you run too fast, they can't keep up with you and their bullets always trail behind you. That's what I'd like to have. Funny enough, this game actually does have like an option for that called like MMG lag, but it, of course it only applies to like the MG42, I guess, to make it a little more feasible to get past it. It really sucks there's nothing like that for just regular firing of the weapons, because again, if somebody runs from left to right in front of you and you're aiming your gun, it's going to be pretty tricky to hit them unless you like lead your shots or whatever. So it just sucked. Like I could never have the enemies be 1-to-1 accuracy with the players, because it would just make it too difficult. The best I could settle for is like making them like 3 to 4 times less accurate on their spray cones. just to like simulate like if you're running past them. But I don't know. I mean, overall, I don't. The accuracy works. Like again, maybe I'll remove like again that system. There is like a system. You could, if you make the time, I think by default like it's like 0.8, and after like 0.8 seconds, they'll always be 100% accurate for every shot, which is why the MG42s are so deadly in the vanilla game, because that's what's happening. They've reached that point where every shot is 100% accurate, and it's like 1,200 rounds per minute. It's just bullshit, man. It can hit you from any range, even behind cover, and just kill you instantly. One of the janky things about this game. If you set the timer to like 99999, it'll just never shrink. So maybe that's what I do. I just keep the enemies at a certain level of inaccuracy, and then just have them never get... Oh, by the way, you can also like change it so that with you in a certain range, there's always 100% accuracy. So I make the range like 0, and I make the time 9999, and just have like a decently large spray cone. I guess that'd be fair. It would be more fair than it is right now, whereas if you stand out in cover too long, their aim just gets better with the more they fire, instead of like getting worse from recoil. Whatever. Of course, the problem with this mod is the stuff that I could never do. The biggest problem is always being like the better sound effects, animation, you know, better models, better like more realistic models, and like, of course, you know, blood, having blood and dismemberment. Like I gotta say, I was playing Call of Duty World at War before I was playing this to test out the gyro aim on the controller, and man, that game is so gory. Like that game is basically everything Airborne should have been, but whatever. Yeah, that's why Medal of Honor went on a shitty reboot and then just got on a permanent hiatus until like a VR game nobody played 2 years ago. Actually came out after this mod. Thank you. You're welcome for the free publicity, EA. What I always wanted to have for this mod was a location-based damage model like SWAT 4 or Boiling Point Road to Hell had. You know, if you get shot in the leg, you'd be limping along very slowly. If you get shot in the arm, you'd only be able to use like a one-handed weapon, or like, I guess, hip fire a two-handed weapon. You just lose the use of that arm till... And I want, you know, like medics be able to patch you up. Which, funny enough, I mentioned this first video, Medal of Honor Pacific Assault, the game by the same development studio, EA LA, that actually had that, like the medic system before that. For some reason, they just dumbed down a lot of features in that game for this game for some reason. That game even had like a realistic difficulty with like no heads-up display and you die in only like 2 or 3 shots. So again, it's just funny they downgraded Airborne, even though it was supposed to be like the HD, more ambitious game. Whatever. It's funny to think back on the HD era, by the way, and it's like, ooh, HD assets. And it's like, when you think about it, PCs were running at like 768 resolution and even higher. So it's like, an Xbox was like running at what, 720? And many games often had like lower internal resolution, like maybe 600p. So it's like, wow. We had HD gaming on PC since like 1998. So it took a console plebes a long time to catch up. Whatever. And of course, you know, I want stuff like weapon jamming. Stalker has that, and, you know, Far Cry 2 has that. You know, because, like, the thing is, like, some weapons in this game end up being too good. Like, the Sturmgewehr 44 is too good, and the Gewehr 43 is too good. I heard in real life those guns actually had a lot of jamming problems, and not even just from, like, you know, not 100-year-old, you know what I mean, like, 80-year-old weapons, like, poorly maintained after all these years, or... and shit, like, it's just, like, even at the time, they had, like, jamming problems. So it's like, the Gewehr 43 in this game is a little better than the Garand, because it has, like, the box magazine you can reload anytime, and it has 2 more rounds. But it's like, in real life, the Garand would be a better weapon, because it would just jam a lot less. But you can't have that level of subtlety with this mod. Now, this mod actually has really... The sad thing is, this mod never really got very good constructive criticism. That's another reason I never made a V1.2. The criticisms were never that, like, constructive. There's usually a lot of, like, very surface-level stuff. The biggest criticism I always got, of course, being it's just too hard. Some people even edit it, like, they would just, like, edit it to have, like, more health and shit. They'd undo a lot of my changes. And it's like, to that end, I say, you know, what's the point? Why couldn't you just lower the difficulty to casual? Like I said, casual might have been a little too hard. It should have really been more like a normal difficulty, but, like, just making it easier for yourself with... expert difficulty. I don't know. I don't get that shit at all. Just lower the damn difficulty already. When I made this mod, again, I was trying to make it like Stalker. I want to have that slow, methodical pace of Stalker. You know, get just prone around environments. One shot kills you, more or less. You got to slowly creep around corners and peek out and shoot people and take advantage. Like, the thing about Stalker, though, it really didn't translate well, because, like, Stalker, most of the combat in Stalker took place in huge open fields from, like, 50 yards or more. 50, like, 100 yards. So you'd have to, like, compensate for bullet drop and stuff. It made the combat, like, very unique. This is just very, like, Call of Duty, pop out of cover, shoot enemies and shit. So, like, it just didn't work out that well, unfortunately. I mean, it's still pretty realistic. Again, I gotta play more realistic games. I gotta play, like, Hidden and Dangerous 1 and 2, and I gotta play Deadly Dozen and Deadly Dozen Pacific Theater. I've been meaning those games have just been on my, like, never-ending backlog. But yeah, I wanted, like, but whatever. I just wanted to be, like, very slow-paced and realistic. One big... I got, like, a 4-star review on ModDB. So he's like, this tries to make it tactical, but it's not. There's a certain point in the amphitheater in Mission 2 where you just get... If you die, you get stuck in a loop of dying over and over again. And it's like, dude, I know. I couldn't do anything about that. I tried everything I could to fix, like, the fade-in values, but it's like, it just wasn't able to fix it. So that's just a known softlock spot. The only thing you can do in that point is just restart the level or just try to get past it without dying. It's unfortunate, but it is possible. Like, it just really stinks that I could never fix that. That's just bad game design that you load in from a death and you just have to fade in for like 10 whole seconds. It's so stupid. I always wish I could just fix that. A lot of people, they downloaded the mod, they complain about the AI and difficulty changes, like, I just expected the FOV tweak. Why couldn't it just be that? Why couldn't the AI balance be separate? And it's like, to that end, I say, yeah, it is separate. Just go on fucking PC Gaming Wiki and download the FOV change. Like, most of my changes for the FOV and stuff were originally from PC Game Wiki. I just took that shit and, like, edited it. Sad thing is, I don't think I credited the original dude, so that kind of sucks. But yeah, for the most part, like, a lot of the fixes they had, I implemented. Although I was able to do stuff, I was able to figure out how to get the toggle aim in-game instead of having to use auto hotkey like they suggested. But it's so funny. Years later, I went back on the PC Gaming Wiki page, and somebody actually suggested this mod as a solution for the FOV, and it's like, you fucking idiot! I took my changes from your page, so it's like this recursive thing. They're suggesting a mod that's based on their mod, and they don't even realize it. So I don't know. People are stupid. And of course, a lot of the criticisms I got were stuff out of my control, like adding blood, changing anything within the levels, like the enemy place, and of course the upgrades. I wanted to change the order of the upgrades so bad, so you could get like the dagger with the MP40. But the problem is, if you just can't change the order. So if you wanted the dagger, you'd have to get the shitty 64-round magazine, and it's like, I just didn't want that for the game. It just ruined the feel of the game. It just didn't feel real, you know? So I don't know, that really stinks. A lot of stuff I couldn't change, just the limitations. And speaking of limitations, that's a big point of comparison to make with Doom Eternal LavaMod. The problem with Doom Eternal LavaMod is that it got hit with feature creep so bad, and a lot of the changes just took so long to implement that they're just completely unfeasible to ever expect finishing within the lifetime. With Medal of Honor Airborne Redux, I had clear limitations in place. I could only edit was in the INI files. It's like I could keep my expectations for what I wanted realistic, and in the end, I think I really set out and I achieved that goal. It's like I was able to do everything I wanted when I wanted it. I was able to get the realistic recoil stats, the realistic damage models for the most part. But yeah, and again, I had the prior experience with Stalker. I knew what I wanted out of Stalker, and I knew what I wanted out of this mod. I wanted to play like how I originally had Stalker playing in that gameplay footage I had. And to that end, I think I achieved it more or less. The game is fairly beatable. It is very difficult, but if you play slow, and again, that's slow and tactically enough, you can get through it. Again, the big thing, Stalker has is you could quick save. You could just save scum. You could get out of any situation by save scumming in Stalker, and that's the big problem with Medal of Honor Airborne. If you die, you have to watch that slow parachute airdrop. You can't quick save at any time because it's like a shitty console port. And that's always just been like the biggest flaw. I would have loved to have like quick saving, quick loading, because that would have really justified the one-shot deaths mode. But whatever. Aside from that, yeah, not really much else to talk about. I guess I could talk about like the videos people made. One problem I always had, this guy, he made a video called Medal of Honor Airborne is revived thanks to this mod. And it's like, that's cool and all, but it's like his video ended up getting double the views that my announcement video for this on the ModDB page got, and it got like double the likes and like way more comments. And it's like, Yeah, that'd be all well and great and all, but it's like, he didn't credit me at all. Like, I think he had just like one link to the mod in the description, but he's just like, this is Medal of Honor Airborne Redux by I Drink Lava. You know, it's like, he could have linked to my channel or something. It's like, I'm not a narcissist or anything. I'm not looking for glory or anything, but it always just kind of like rubbed me the wrong way. That it's like, he could have at least mentioned me by name and like told people about me. Whatever. I guess some people are just mindless consumers. They don't care where it comes from as long as they get the goods. A lot of videos I remember watching, people would just like run out in the open and they would die. They would try to play it like a Silver 1 in CSGO. And it's so funny to me, just like watching people run out in the open and get shot. And it's like, what the fuck did you expect? And that, again, the people complaining about the difficulty, that's gotta be how they played it. Because again, it's like, if you play it slowly, you peek around slowly around corners and shoot, like, yeah, you're gonna stay alive a lot longer than if you just run on the field and get shot from every angle. I mean, what do you expect, man? People are just so brain rotted by Call of Duty, they don't actually know how to, like, shoot guns and take cover. It's really embarrassing. Again, if these people played a Rainbow Six game, they would get their asses kicked so hard. And again, I don't mean like Rainbow Six Siege, I mean like the original from 1998.
Drop behind enemy lines at dawn.
Yeah, you don't even have to go back that far. Even stuff like Rainbow Six Lockdown, I think on the Xbox 360 and stuff. Or Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Advanced Warfare. Like shit like that. Like, it's like... And of course, this is the one that always offended me. A couple months ago, somebody actually made a video showing off Medal of Honor Airborne. Somebody was subscribed to with like 3D audio and like the 4K texture pack. And I was like, and in the comments, I said, hey, that's pretty cool. You should, you know, I made a mod for this 5 years ago that makes it like rebalanced to be more difficult and tactical. You should check it out sometime. And to my shock, like a week later, he actually did upload a video of it. And at first I thought it was cool. It's like, oh, nice to see my mod all these years later, or somebody playing it. But then I noticed, like, he would take all these hits and he wouldn't die. And it's like, what's up with that? And eventually I realized he was playing in God mode. And it's like, motherfucker. I mean, I know it's hard, but, like, you could have just reduced the difficulty. Would you rather play in casual difficulty with some challenge? Or would you play in God mode with no challenge? It's like, how do you just half-ass it so bad? It's so stupid. I was just so offended by that. I ended up like disliking the video and unsubscribing from his channel entirely. It's so funny to me. I know that seems petty, but it's like, goddamn. I don't like watching people play my stuff bad. It's like, God, that's how Hugo Morton must have felt when he watched me playing Doom Eternal LavaMod. But whatever. That's basically all I had to talk about. Overall, like, it was really fun revisiting this mod all these years later, seeing how well it played. Again, seeing what I could have done differently. I don't know if I'll ever end up making that V1.2, but it's you know, it's nice to think about. Yeah, thank you for watching.